The skies above Charos 7 shimmered with an eerie purple glow, casting long shadows across the jagged landscape of the mining outpost. Marcus Vale stood at the edge of the landing platform, his weathered face grimacing as he felt the planet's natural gravity tugging at his bones. After 15 years of hopping between mining operations across the galaxy, he thought he'd grown accustomed to the varying gravitational pulls of different worlds. But there was something different about Charos 7, something that made his skin prickle with unease. "First time on Charos?" a voice called from behind him. Marcus turned to see a young woman approaching, her Titan Gravitech uniform pristine, despite the dust that seemed to coat everything on this forsaken rock. "Not my first rodeo," Marcus replied, adjusting the geological survey equipment slung over his shoulder. "But it's been a while since I've been this far out on the rim." "Ilara Novik," she said, extending her hand. "Engineering control. I'll be your liaison while you're conducting your independent survey." Marcus took her hand, noting the firm grip despite her slight frame. "Marcus Vale, and I don't need a babysitter, Miss Novik. Titan Gravitech may have contracted me, but I work alone." A flicker of something, annoyance, amusement, crossed Ilara's face. "Company policy, I'm afraid, especially since you'll be heading into the gravity pit." The gravity pit. Even the name sent a chill down Marcus's spine. He'd heard whispers about it during his flight to Charos 7, a massive excavation site where Titan Gravitech was testing their artificial gravity technology to extract rare minerals from depths previously unreachable. The pit where, rumor had it, 3 workers had already disappeared without explanation. "The briefing said I'd be conducting a standard geological assessment," Marcus said, his eyes narrowing. Ilara's expression remained carefully neutral. "Plans change, Mr. Vale. Director Lux will explain everything at the orientation. This way, please." As they walked toward the main compound, Marcus took in the sprawling mining operation. Massive excavators carved into the planet's surface, while hovering platforms transported extracted minerals to processing facilities. Everything ran with military precision, too precise for a standard mining operation. Marcus had served long enough in the geological corps during the resource wars to recognize a militarized setup when he saw one. The main compound loomed ahead, a stark, utilitarian structure of reinforced plasteel and carbon fiber. Unlike the rest of the base, it seemed impervious to the planet's omnipresent dust. As they approached, a squad of armed security personnel fell into formation around them. "Quite the welcome party," Marcus muttered. Ilara didn't respond, but Marcus caught the slight tightening of her jaw. Something wasn't right here, and based on the tension radiating from his young escort, she knew it too. The doors to the compound slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing a sterile interior that reminded Marcus more of a military command center than a mining operation headquarters. Screens displaying geological data and operational metrics lined the walls, attended by technicians in identical Titan uniforms. At the center of the room, standing before a 3-dimensional holographic display of what Marcus assumed was the gravity pit, stood a tall, imposing figure. Director Diem Lux, head of Titan Gravitech's Charos 7 operation, cut an intimidating silhouette even from behind. "Director," Ilara announced, "Marcus Vale has arrived." Lux turned, and Marcus found himself facing a man whose appearance matched his reputation for cold efficiency. Sharp features, calculating eyes, and not a single gray hair out of place despite being well into his 60s. "Ah, the independent surveyor," Lux said, his voice carrying the polished accent of Earth's upper echelons. "Welcome to Charos 7, Mr. Vale. I trust your journey was uneventful." "As uneventful as a 3-week hypersleep journey can be," Marcus replied, meeting the director's gaze steadily. "Good, good," Lux gestured to the holographic display. "I assume you're curious about your assignment. As you can see, we're conducting a rather specialized operation here." The hologram showed a massive excavation that descended deep into the planet's crust, far deeper than any conventional mining operation Marcus had ever seen. At various levels, strange devices were embedded into the walls. Artificial gravity generators, Marcus realized. "You're using artificial gravity to extract minerals," Marcus observed. "Precisely," Lux smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. Karo 7 has the richest deposits of quantum ore in the galaxy, the key component in faster-than-light drives. But the ore is trapped in a unique geological formation that makes conventional extraction impossible. "So you're manipulating gravity to break apart the formations," Marcus said, his mind racing through the implications. "But that kind of manipulation could destabilize the entire planetary crust. A risk we've calculated for," Lux dismissed with a wave of his hand. "What we need from you is not a standard survey. We need you to test the human tolerance for our gravity manipulation." Marcus blinked. "Excuse me." "Titan Gravitech is pioneering what we call gravitational mining," Lux continued, undeterred. "Human operators controlling extraction equipment in enhanced gravity conditions. More efficient, more precise than automated systems. And more dangerous," Marcus added. "The human body isn't designed to function under increased gravitational pressure." "Which is precisely why we need someone with your background," Lux said. "Former military, extensive experience in variable gravity environments, physically conditioned beyond standard parameters. You're the perfect subject for our gravity challenge." Marcus felt his anger rising. "I was contracted for a geological survey, not to be your lab rat." "Your contract," Lux said, tapping a tablet that materialized in his hand, "includes a clause permitting reassignment based on operational requirements. Section 7, Paragraph 3, if you'd care to review it." Marcus clenched his jaw. The bastard was right. He'd signed the standard Titan contract without giving it a thorough read, desperate for the credits after 6 months without work. A rookie mistake he was now paying for. "What exactly does this gravity challenge entail?" he asked, fighting to keep his voice level. Lux's smile widened fractionally. "Nothing too strenuous. We simply need you to function in our double gravity environment. Perform basic tasks, collect some samples, demonstrate that a well-conditioned human can operate effectively. The data will help us develop training protocols for our permanent workforce." "Double gravity?" Marcus couldn't hide his surprise. "You want me to function in 2G conditions?" "Is that a problem, Mr. Vale?" Lux's tone was silky with challenge. "Your military record indicates you've operated in 1.8G environments before." "For short periods, with specialized support equipment," Marcus countered. "Not as part of a mining operation." "You'll have all the support you need," Lux assured him, though there was nothing reassuring in his tone. "And of course, we'll compensate you handsomely for this adjustment to your duties. An additional 50,000 credits upon successful completion." 50,000. Enough to clear Marcus's debts and set himself up somewhere quiet, away from corporate contracts and the ever-expanding reach of companies like Titan Gravitech. The offer was too good to be practical, which meant there was something Lux wasn't telling him. "When do we start?" Marcus asked, knowing he had little choice but to play along until he figured out what was really happening on Karo 7. "Immediately," Lux replied. "Colonel Rax will escort you to the preparation area. Miss Novick, you'll continue to serve as Mr. Vale's technical liaison." A hulking figure stepped forward from the shadows. Colonel Rax was a mountain of a man, with a face scarred from what looked like plasma burns, and eyes that held the dead stare of someone who had seen, and likely caused, too much violence. "This way, Surveyor," Rax grunted, his voice a rumbling bass that seemed to vibrate through the floor. As Marcus followed Rax and Alara from the command center, he caught a glimpse of the holographic display shifting to show what appeared to be betting odds. The realization hit him with a jolt. This wasn't just a test. It was entertainment, a spectacle for the corporate elite to wager on. "How many?" he asked quietly, as they walked down a sterile corridor. "How many what?" Alara responded, her voice equally low. "How many people have you already put through this challenge? How many didn't make it back?" Alara's step faltered slightly. "You're the seventh," she whispered. "The others, they're in medical recovery. The lucky ones, anyway." Marcus felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. "And the unlucky ones?" "Keep moving," Rax growled from ahead of them, not bothering to turn around. The preparation area turned out to be a combination of medical facility and equipment room. Technicians swarmed around Marcus, taking readings, attaching monitoring devices to his body, and fitting him with a reinforced exoframe that would supposedly help distribute the increased gravitational load. "This won't protect you completely," Alara explained, as she calibrated the frame's neural interface. "It's designed to prevent immediate structural damage to your skeletal system, but your organs, circulatory system, and muscles will still bear the full brunt of the increased gravity." "Comforting," Marcus muttered. "Listen," Alara said, her voice dropping to barely audible. "There's more going on here than just testing mining operations. Lux has investors watching, military contractors. They're not interested in mining. They're interested in creating super soldiers who can fight in high-gravity environments." "Why are you telling me this?" Alara's eyes met his, and he saw fear there, but also determination. "Because I've seen what happens to the test subjects, and I can't be part of it anymore. But I can't just leave either. They don't let people walk away from Karo 7 with what they know." Before Marcus could respond, Rax approached, his massive frame blocking the light. "Time to move out," he announced. "Director Lux and the observers are in position." Observers. The investors Alara had mentioned. Marcus felt like a gladiator being prepared for the arena. They led him through a series of airlocks and down an elevator that descended deep into the planet's crust. Marcus felt the temperature rising with each meter they dropped, the ancient heat of Karo 7 seeping through even the insulated walls of the shaft. "The gravity pit is a natural formation we've expanded," Alara explained, slipping back into her professional role as the elevator continued its descent. "A massive cavern that once held an underground ocean, now drained and repurposed." "Nothing sacred, is there?" Marcus remarked. "Karo 7 is an uninhabited rock," Rax stated flatly. "Actually," Alara said, "there's evidence of a prehistoric civilization. The indigenous Karosians died out centuries ago, but they left behind artifacts, some of which suggest they had their own form of gravity manipulation technology." Rax shot her a warning look. "Stick to the briefing, Engineer Novik." The elevator slowed, then stopped with a slight jolt. The doors slid open to reveal a massive cavern that took Marcus's breath away. The gravity pit was enormous, at least 2 kilometers across and descending into darkness below. Platforms and walkways crisscrossed the open space, with mining equipment positioned at various levels. The walls glittered with veins of what must be the quantum ore Lux had mentioned, a blue-white crystalline substance that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. But what drew Marcus's attention were the devices mounted at regular intervals throughout the cavern, artificial gravity generators, far more advanced than any he'd seen before. Each was at least 3 meters tall, with a central core that glowed with the same blue-white energy as the ore. "Those aren't standard issue," he observed. "Reverse-engineered from Karosian artifacts," Alara confirmed, earning another glare from Rax. "The original technology was biological in nature. The Karosians evolved in variable gravity conditions and developed ways to manipulate gravitational fields using organic compounds." "Fascinating lecture," Rax interrupted. "Now move. The challenge area is this way." He led them across a walkway to a circular platform suspended in the center of the cavern. Marcus could see observation boxes built into the cavern walls, their windows reflecting the blue-white light of the ore and generators. In one of them, he caught a glimpse of Lux standing with a group of well-dressed figures, the investors, watching their potential investment being put through its paces. "The challenge is simple," Rax explained as they reached the platform. We will gradually increase the gravity to 2G. You will perform a series of tasks, walking the perimeter of the platform, collecting ore samples from designated points, and operating a drilling mechanism. Complete these tasks without physiological failure, and you pass. And if I fail? Marcus asked. Rax's scarred face twisted into what might have been a smile. Then we learn valuable data about human limitations. The medical team is standing by, Alara added quickly. At the first sign of critical physiological distress, we'll extract you. How reassuring, Marcus said dryly. He looked around the platform, noting the sampling points and the compact drilling unit positioned at its center. Standard equipment, at least. Let's get this over with. Rax nodded to Alara, who reluctantly moved to a control panel at the edge of the platform. Beginning gravity increase, she announced, her voice now amplified and echoing through the cavern. Current level, 1G, standard, increasing to 1.2 G, 1.4 G. Marcus felt the change immediately. What started as a subtle increase in weight quickly became a noticeable burden. By 1.6 G, he was consciously adjusting his breathing, remembering his military training on high-gravity worlds. 1.8 G, 2 G, gravity stabilized at twice Earth standard, Alara reported, her voice tight with concern. The weight was immense. Marcus felt as though his entire body was being compressed, every movement requiring deliberate effort. His enhanced exoframe whirred as it compensated, distributing the load across his body. But it could only do so much. His organs felt heavy within his chest, his heart working harder to pump blood against the increased gravitational pull. Begin the challenges, Rax ordered. Marcus took a step, then another, fighting against the invisible force that threatened to bring him to his knees. Each footfall required tremendous effort, but he forced himself forward, drawing on years of military conditioning and sheer stubbornness. Subject is ambulatory at 2G, he heard Alara report. Vital signs elevated but within tolerable parameters. Marcus made his way around the perimeter of the platform, each step a battle. Sweat poured down his face, and his muscles screamed in protest, but he continued, refusing to give Lux and his observers the satisfaction of seeing him fall. First challenge completed, Alara announced when Marcus finally returned to his starting position. Proceeding to sample collection. The sample collection points were positioned at various heights, requiring Marcus to bend, stretch, and in one case, climb a short ladder to reach them. Each movement was agony, but he pushed through, gathering the glittering fragments of quantum ore and placing them in the collection containers. By the time he reached the drilling challenge, his body was trembling with exertion. The drill, designed to be lightweight under normal conditions, now felt like a massive burden. But Marcus had operated drilling equipment in the mines of Ganymede during the resource wars, where equipment failures had often left soldiers doing the work of machines. He positioned the drill against the designated point and activated it, bracing himself against the vibrations that threatened to shake him apart under the doubled gravity. Final challenge completed, Alara reported, relief evident in her voice. Subject has successfully performed all required tasks under 2G conditions. Marcus stood in the center of the platform, breathing heavily, but still on his feet. He looked up at the observation box where Lux and his investors watched, allowing himself a small, defiant smile. "Is that all you've got?" he called out, his voice carrying across the cavern. The amplification system carried Lux's response back to him. "Impressive, Mr. Vale. Most impressive. But I wonder." Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the physical strain. "Colonel Rax," Lux continued, "let's see how our surveyor handles a bit more pressure. Increase to 2.5 G. "Sir," Alara protested, "the exoframe isn't rated beyond 2.2 G. Any higher could cause catastrophic failure." "Then we'll learn its limitations as well," Lux replied coldly. "Proceed, Colonel." Rax shoved Alara aside and took control of the panel himself. "Increasing gravity to 2.5 degree," he announced with undisguised pleasure. The change hit Marcus like a sledgehammer. He staggered, nearly falling as his weight effectively increased by another quarter. The exo-frame whined in protest, servos straining against the increased load. Warning indicators flashed across his visual field as the frame's neural interface reported imminent systems failure. "Look at that!" Lux's voice echoed through the cavern. "Still standing. What do you think, gentlemen? Is he Titan material?" Through the haze of pain and effort, Marcus realized what was happening. This wasn't just a test. It was an audition. Titan Gravitech wasn't looking for miners. They were looking for super soldiers who could operate in high-gravity environments, giving them a tactical advantage in planetary conflicts. The observers weren't mining investors. They were military contractors. "Vital signs critical," Alara reported, having regained access to a monitoring terminal. "Heart rate 180 BPM. Blood pressure dangerously elevated. We need to abort." "Not yet," Lux countered. "Our investors want to see the absolute limits of human capability. If Vale here represents the peak of unaugmented human performance, imagine what we could achieve with proper genetic modification and enhanced exoframes." Marcus felt a surge of anger cut through the pain. They were treating him like a laboratory specimen, a benchmark against which to measure their future soldiers. And when they were done with him, he'd either be dead or, if Alara's fears were correct, permanently conscripted into their program. Not if he could help it. Drawing on reserves of strength he didn't know he possessed. Marcus straightened, squaring his shoulders against the crushing weight of 2.5 times Earth's gravity. "Is this a challenge or a demonstration?" he called out, his voice strained but steady. "Because if you're trying to impress your friends, you'll need to do better than this." A murmur ran through the observation box. Lux stepped closer to the window, his expression a mixture of surprise and calculation. "You think you can handle more, Mr. Vale?" he asked, the challenge explicit in his tone. "I think," Marcus replied, "that you're afraid to find out." Lux's eyes narrowed. "Colonel Rax, increase to 3G. "Director, no!" Alara protested. "The human body can't—" "The human body," Lux cut her off, "is capable of far more than your textbooks suggest, Miss Novik, particularly when properly motivated." He turned back to the window. "Triple gravity, Colonel. Let's see what our surveyor is truly made of." Rax's smile was predatory as he adjusted the controls. "Increasing to 3G. The weight that crashed down on Marcus was beyond anything he had ever experienced. His exoframe shrieked in protest, then failed completely, with a series of popping sounds as servo motors burned out and support structures fractured. Without its assistance, the full force of triple Earth gravity bore down on him. Marcus crashed to one knee, then both, his body seemingly made of lead. Blood roared in his ears, and his vision tunneled as his cardiovascular system struggled to pump blood against the crushing pressure. He could feel his ribs bending, organs compressing, the very structure of his body threatening to collapse. Through the haze of pain, he heard Alara shouting for medical intervention, Rax countermanding her orders, and Lux's cold voice explaining to his guests the theoretical limits of human endurance. They were discussing him as if he were already dead. But there was something else, a memory struggling to surface through the fog of agony. During his descent into the gravity pit, Alara had mentioned something about the indigenous Corosians, that they had developed ways to manipulate gravity using biological means. They had evolved in variable gravity conditions, which meant they had evolved adaptations to survive. Marcus closed his eyes, shutting out the chaos around him, and focused inward. His military training had included survival techniques from dozens of worlds, including ancient breathing methods designed to help the body adapt to extreme conditions. One in particular came to mind, a technique taught by a veteran who had spent years studying with the monks of Europa. who traced their lineage to Earth's Tibetan traditions. Pressure modulation breathing. They called it a way of using the breath to redistribute pressure within the body, to find balance even in chaotic conditions. Marcus drew a shallow breath, all he could manage under the crushing weight, and began the technique. Inhale through the nose, visualizing the air flowing not just to the lungs, but throughout the body. Hold, directing the pressure to counterbalance the external force. Exhale through the mouth, releasing in a controlled manner that maintained core stability. At first, nothing seemed to change, but as he continued, breath after labored breath, he felt something shift, not in the gravity itself, but in how his body responded to it. The pain didn't diminish, but it became manageable, compartmentalized. With excruciating effort, Marcus placed one palm flat against the platform, then the other. Using his arms for support, he began to push upward, fighting against the monumental force pressing down on him. In the observation box, the chatter died away as all eyes fixed on the impossible sight unfolding before them. Slowly, agonizingly, Marcus Vale was rising to his feet under triple Earth gravity. "Impossible!" he heard someone whisper over the comm system. But it wasn't impossible. It was simply a matter of adaptation, something the Corosians had understood centuries ago. The breathing technique was creating micro-changes in his body's pressure systems, allowing him to function despite the crushing gravity. Marcus stood, swaying but upright, and lifted his gaze to meet Lux's shocked expression. "Triple!" he gasped out, each word requiring tremendous effort. "Quadruple. I don't care. Is this all you've got?" The silence that followed was deafening. Then Lux's voice, tinged with both amazement and greed. "Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. Colonel Rax, prepare to—" Marcus didn't wait to hear what new torture Lux had planned. With every remaining ounce of strength, he lunged toward the control panel where Rax stood. The movement was agonizingly slow under the triple gravity, but it caught everyone by surprise. Before Rax could react, Marcus had reached the panel and slammed his fist down on the emergency override, a standard safety feature on all mining equipment that he'd spotted during his approach to the platform. Alarms blared as the system initiated an emergency shutdown. The artificial gravity generators began to power down, their blue-white glow flickering and fading. But in their failing state, something unexpected happened, instead of simply deactivating. The gravitational field became erratic, fluctuating wildly throughout the cavern. "What have you done?" Rax roared, grabbing for Marcus as the gravity around them shifted. "What you deserve," Marcus gasped, the sudden relief from triple gravity making him lightheaded. Across the cavern, the observation box was in chaos. The fluctuating gravity had affected the entire pit, including the supposedly shielded observation areas. Marcus saw Lux and his investors staggering as gravity increased in their section, their bodies unused to even minor changes in gravitational pull. "The system's destabilizing," Alara called out, her fingers flying over a secondary control panel. "The generators are creating a cascading feedback loop. If I don't contain it, the entire network could collapse." "Let it," Marcus said, pushing himself to his feet as the gravity around them temporarily normalized. "You don't understand," Alara shot back. "These generators aren't just controlling gravity in the pit. They're stabilizing the entire excavation. If they fail completely, we could see massive structural collapse. Everyone in this cavern would be buried alive." Marcus looked around at the other workers scattered throughout the pit. Ordinary men and women who had no part in Lux's schemes, just trying to make a living in a harsh universe. They didn't deserve to die for Titan Gravitex greed. "What do you need?" he asked Alara. "I need to reach the master control node," she said, pointing to a structure suspended near the center of the cavern, accessible only by a narrow walkway. "From there, I can isolate the affected generators and stabilize the rest." Go, Marcus told her. I'll deal with Rax. The colonel had recovered from his initial shock and was advancing on Marcus, his massive frame seemingly unaffected by the gravitational fluctuations. Military-grade genetic enhancements. Marcus realized. Rax was already what Lux hoped to mass-produce, a soldier modified to function in variable gravity. You've sabotaged a multi-billion credit operation, Rax growled, reaching for the sidearm holstered at his hip. That's treason against Titan Gravitech, punishable by immediate execution. Shooting me won't fix your generators, Marcus pointed out, backing away as Alara sprinted for the walkway leading to the master control node. No, Rax agreed, drawing his weapon, but it will be satisfying. Before he could fire, another gravitational wave rippled through the cavern, this one stronger than before. The gravity around them suddenly increased to what felt like 2G, then 3G, then higher still. Rax staggered, his genetically enhanced body struggling against the unexpected surge. Marcus, having already experienced and adapted to triple gravity, was better prepared. Using the pressure modulation breathing technique, he weathered the surge long enough to lunge forward and knock the weapon from Rax's hand. It clattered to the platform and slid away as the gravity fluctuated again, this time dropping to near zero. Both men briefly floated upward before gravity reasserted itself, sending them crashing back to the platform. Rax recovered first, his enhancements giving him an edge in the chaotic conditions. He charged Marcus, massive fists swinging. Marcus dodged the first blow, but caught the second full in the chest. Even with gravity temporarily normalized, Rax's enhanced strength was formidable. Marcus felt ribs crack as he was thrown backward, sliding across the platform until he fetched up against the drilling equipment he'd operated earlier. The drill, a tool, but also a weapon. As Rax advanced again, Marcus grabbed the drill and activated it. The tool whirred to life, its reinforced bit designed to cut through the hardest minerals. Stay back, Marcus warned, holding the drill before him. Rax laughed. You don't have the guts to use that surveyor. You're not a killer. I was a soldier before I was a surveyor, Marcus reminded him. I've killed when necessary. And is this necessary? Rax taunted, still advancing. You've made your point. The project is compromised. Director Lux will have to start over elsewhere. Walk away while you can. So you can continue experimenting on people, Marcus shook his head. I don't think so. Another gravitational surge hit, stronger than before. This time, the gravity increased to what must have been 4G or higher. Both men were slammed to the platform, the metal surface actually denting under their suddenly multiplied weight. Rax, despite his enhancements, was struggling visibly, his face contorted with the effort of simply breathing under the crushing pressure. Marcus wasn't faring much better, but his earlier experience gave him a slight edge. Using the pressure modulation technique, he managed to maintain consciousness while Rax's eyes rolled back in his head. Across the cavern, Marcus could see Alara had reached the master control node and was working frantically to stabilize the system. The gravitational surges were becoming more erratic, crushing pressure one moment, near weightlessness the next. Throughout the pit, equipment was breaking free of its moorings, and workers were desperately trying to reach safety. In the observation box, Lux and his investors were trapped. The emergency exit had malfunctioned due to the gravitational fluctuations, and they were experiencing the full effects of the gravity surges. Marcus could see them pressed against the floor during high-gravity pulses, then floating helplessly when gravity temporarily failed. Poetic justice, in a way. A final, massive gravitational surge swept through the cavern, and then stability. The artificial gravity generators pulsed once more with their blue-white light, then settled into a steady glow. Throughout the pit, the gravitational field normalized to standard Earth gravity. Alara had done it. Marcus struggled to his feet, his body a mass of pain from the repeated gravitational stresses. Beside him, Rax lay unconscious, his enhanced physiology having finally reached its limits. "Marcus!" Alara called, running back across the walkway toward the platform. "We need to evacuate. I've stabilized the system, but it's temporary. The damage to the generator network is too extensive." "What about the workers?" Marcus asked, gesturing to the dozens of people scattered throughout the pit. "The emergency protocols are active. Evacuation pods are deploying at all levels." She pointed to small craft that were detaching from docking stations throughout the cavern. "But we have maybe 20 minutes before the generators fail completely." "And Lux, his investors?" Alara's expression hardened. "Their exit is working now. They'll make it out, unfortunately." Marcus nodded, then winced as the movement sent pain shooting through his battered body. "Let's go, then." As they made their way toward the nearest evacuation point, alarms continued to blare throughout the facility. Workers rushed past them, heading for escape pods and emergency shuttles. In the chaos, no one paid attention to a surveyor and an engineer. Just two more people trying to escape a collapsing mining operation. They had almost reached an evacuation pod when a group of figures emerged from a side corridor, blocking their path. At their head stood Director Lux, his pristine appearance now disheveled, but his cold eyes as calculating as ever. "Engineer Novik," he said, his voice tight with controlled fury. "I see you've chosen to ally yourself with our troublesome surveyor." Behind him stood 4 security officers, all with weapons drawn. "We're evacuating," Marcus said, stepping slightly in front of Alara, "just like everyone else." "Oh, I don't think so," Lux replied. "You've cost Titan Gravitech billions in equipment and potential military contracts. Someone has to answer for that." "The only ones who need to answer for anything are you and your investors," Marcus shot back. "Human experimentation, unauthorized weapons development, endangering workers. The Interplanetary Regulatory Commission would shut you down in a heartbeat if they knew what was happening here." "The IRC," Lux said with a dismissive wave, "is a toothless organization that exists to give the appearance of oversight, while corporations like Titan Gravitech do the real work of advancing humanity's interests in the galaxy." "Is that what you call it?" Alara asked bitterly. "Advancement? You were going to create an army of genetically modified soldiers who could fight in high-gravity environments. How many test subjects would have died in the process? How many more would have died in the conflicts that followed?" "An acceptable loss for the greater good," Lux insisted. "Humanity needs every advantage in a universe full of competing interests. Those who control gravity control the battlefield. And those who sell the technology control the profit," Marcus added. "That's what this is really about." Lux's expression hardened. "Take them," he ordered his security team. "We'll deal with them once we're off planet." The guards advanced, but before they could reach Marcus and Alara, a strange rumbling shook the corridor. The floor beneath them vibrated, and dust drifted down from the ceiling. "The generators are failing faster than I anticipated," Alara whispered to Marcus. "We need to get out now." As if in response to her words, a section of the ceiling collapsed, crushing one of the security officers beneath tons of rock. The others scattered, seeking cover from the falling debris. "Run!" Marcus shouted, grabbing Alara's hand and pulling her past the distracted guards. They sprinted down the corridor, the sounds of pursuit fading behind them as more sections of the facility began to collapse. Emergency lights flashed, and automated voices announced evacuation protocols in multiple languages. "This way," Alara directed, pulling Marcus down a side passage. "There's an emergency shuttle bay for executives. It should still be operational." The shuttle bay was deserted when they arrived, the executives having already fled. A single, sleek craft remained, its engines humming on standby. "Can you fly this thing?" Marcus asked, as they scrambled aboard. "Basic piloting was part of my engineering training," Alara replied, sliding into the pilot seat. "It won't be pretty, but I can get us off this rock." As she initiated the launch sequence, the bay doors above them began to open, revealing a sliver of Charos 7's purple sky. But before they could launch, a figure appeared in the shuttle doorway. Lux. His face contorted with rage, a handheld mining laser clutched in his grip. "You're not going anywhere," he snarled, aiming the laser at Alara. "This shuttle is leaving with me in command, or it's not leaving at all." Marcus didn't hesitate. Drawing on his last reserves of strength, he hurled himself at Lux, catching the director around the waist and driving him backward out of the shuttle. They crashed to the bay floor, the laser skittering away across the metal surface. "Go!" Marcus shouted to Alara. "Get out of here!" "Not without you," she called back, her hands hovering over the launch controls. Lux fought like a cornered animal, his corporate refinement giving way to primal survival instinct. He clawed at Marcus's face, landed a solid blow to his already injured ribs, and nearly broke free of his grip. But Marcus had been fighting to survive long before he'd set foot on Charos 7. With a practiced move, he locked Lux in a submission hold, pinning him to the floor as the facility continued to shake around them. "It's over, Director," he said. "Your project, your investors, your military contracts, it's all gone. You have no idea what you've done." Lux spat. "Titan Gravitech doesn't forgive. We don't forget. You'll spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder." "Maybe," Marcus acknowledged, "but at least I'll be able to look in the mirror." With a final surge of effort, he knocked Lux unconscious with a precise strike, then staggered back to the shuttle, where Alara waited. "Cutting it close," she remarked, as he collapsed into the co-pilot seat. "Just fly," he gasped, his body finally registering the full extent of the damage it had sustained. The shuttle's engines roared as Alara guided it upward through the bay doors. Behind them, the mining facility was coming apart, sections collapsing into the gravity pit as the artificial gravity generators failed completely. The quantum ore, no longer held in place by the gravitational fields, was creating unpredictable energy surges throughout the structure. As they broke atmosphere, Marcus looked back at the planet's surface. From orbit, Charos 7 still appeared peaceful, its purple-tinged atmosphere hiding the destruction below. But a bright flash marked the final collapse of the Titan Gravitech facility, a brief star that faded as quickly as it had appeared. "Where to?" Alara asked, setting a course away from the planet. Marcus considered the question. With Titan Gravitech hunting for them, nowhere in corporate space would be safe. The outer colonies were an option, but life on the fringe was hard, resources scarce. Then he remembered something Alara had mentioned earlier: the indigenous Charosians, a civilization that had mastered gravity manipulation through biological means, centuries before Titan Gravitech had arrived to exploit their world. "You said there were Charosian artifacts," he said. "Evidence of their civilization." Alara nodded. "Scattered throughout the planet. Titan wasn't interested in archaeological research. They just wanted the technology they could reverse engineer." "But there must be more," Marcus pressed. "A civilization advanced enough to manipulate gravity wouldn't just disappear without a trace. There could be survivors, descendants living in hiding." "It's possible," Alara admitted. There were rumors among the indigenous labor force, stories of hidden enclaves in the mountains on the far side of the planet, areas that Titan deemed too costly to survey. Marcus smiled despite the pain that seemed to radiate from every cell in his body. "Then that's where we go. If anyone can help us understand what happened in that pit, how I was able to adapt to triple gravity, it's the descendants of those who evolved there. And if Titan comes looking for us, then they'll have to deal with us and whatever allies we can find." Marcus leaned back in his seat, finally allowing exhaustion to claim him. "Besides, I think we've proven we can handle the pressure." As the shuttle curved around Charos 7's horizon, heading for the unexplored mountain ranges of the far side, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in years: hope. Not just for survival, but for discovery, for understanding the remarkable adaptation he'd experienced in the gravity pit, for uncovering the truth about the Corrosions and their mastery of gravity, and perhaps for finding a way to ensure that what Titan Gravitech had attempted could never happen again. In the distance, the mountains of Keros 7 emerged from the purple haze, jagged peaks reaching toward the stars like ancient sentinels. Somewhere among them, Marcus believed, were answers, and maybe, just maybe, a new beginning. For in the crushing pressure of triple Earth gravity, Marcus Vale had discovered not just the limits of human endurance, but the limitless potential of human adaptation. It was a lesson worth any price, a truth that no corporation, no matter how powerful, could ever own. And as Keros 7's twin suns broke over the horizon, bathing the mountains in golden light, Marcus made a silent promise to himself and to the planet that had nearly killed him. This was not the end of the story. It was merely the beginning of a much greater one.